Could prime Michael Jordan survive the gladiator arena? To answer this, we need to examine three key areas. First, what made Jordan physically exceptional. Second, what actually happened inside Roman arenas. And third, whether his abilities translate to staying alive in ancient combat. Let's start with Jordan's physical capabilities, because the numbers are genuinely absurd. He stood 6 feet 6 inches tall, weighing between 200 and 215 pounds during his peak years. His body fat percentage sat at only 2%, which is extraordinary even among elite athletes. But here's where it gets interesting. Jordan could sprint 100 meters in 10.7 seconds. For context, that's fast enough to have competed in Olympic trials. His vertical leap measured 48 inches, a record that remains unmatched since he left the NBA. These weren't just party tricks. Jordan averaged 30.1 points per game across his entire career, the highest in NBA history. In the playoffs, that number jumped to 33.4. He collected 6 Finals MVP awards, 5 regular season MVPs, and 10 scoring titles. His hands were famously massive, giving him control over the basketball that seemed almost supernatural. Broadcaster Al Michaels once mentioned that Jordan could read baseball box scores on a television from 50 feet away. The man's eyesight was as freakish as his athleticism. What's often overlooked is his defensive capability. Jordan earned 9 all-defensive first-team honors, meaning he was elite on both ends of the court. His reaction time, anticipation, and ability to read opponents made him dangerous whether he had the ball or not. Now let's talk about what Jordan would actually face in the arena. Gladiators weren't random prisoners thrown into chaos. They were professional fighters trained in specialized schools called ludi, managed by a lanista who oversaw their development. The training regimen was sophisticated, built around something called the tetrad system, a 4-day cycle focusing on different aspects of fitness and recovery. These fighters lifted stones weighing over 100 kilograms, performed bodyweight exercises that would look familiar in modern gyms, and drilled with wooden weapons heavier than real ones to build strength. The heavily armored gladiators carried 30 to 40 pounds of equipment into combat. They practiced techniques for stabbing at major arteries under the arm and behind the knee, aiming to end fights with precision rather than wild swinging. The weapons themselves were brutal, double-edged blades between 24 and 33 inches long, designed specifically for killing. Some gladiators used nets and tridents, others carried large shields and short swords. The matchups were strategic. A heavily armored secutor would face a lightly equipped retiarius, creating a contest of strength versus speed. Referees managed the fights under strict rules, and the combat was accompanied by music that matched the tempo of the action. What's crucial to understand is that this wasn't mindless violence. Gladiators were expensive investments. Their owners wanted them to survive, which meant the training was methodical and the medical care was surprisingly advanced. The famous physician Galen got his start treating gladiators, developing expertise in wound care and sports injuries. Schools provided massages, hot and cold baths, and immediate treatment for injuries. But here's the uncomfortable reality. During the 1st century, a gladiator entering the arena faced a 10% chance of dying in that specific fight. Those odds might sound manageable until you realize they compound. Most gladiators fought 2 or 3 times per year, and the average life expectancy was mid-20s. Few survived more than 10 contests, though one extraordinary fighter made it through 150 bouts. So we've established what Jordan brings to the table and what the arena demands. The question becomes whether his physical gifts and competitive mindset could overcome the fundamental problem he'd face. That problem is simple. Jordan has 0 training in lethal combat. His vertical leap means nothing when you're trying to avoid a blade aimed at your femoral artery. His court vision doesn't translate to predicting where a trident will strike. Reading a basketball defense is fundamentally different from reading an opponent who's been drilling sword techniques since childhood. Jordan's height would actually give him an advantage in ancient Rome, where the average man was considerably shorter. At 6'6", he'd have reach that most gladiators couldn't match. His sprint speed would make him dangerous as a lighter fighter, possibly a Thrax or Rhetorius, using mobility to offset inexperience. That 2% body fat and elite conditioning, perfect foundation for the grinding endurance required in the arena. But here's what changes everything: Jordan's mental edge. The man thrived under pressure that broke other elite athletes. He demanded the ball in elimination games. He elevated when stakes were highest. That psychological makeup is rare even among champions, and it's exactly what separated gladiators who survived from those who didn't. The arena wasn't just physical. Fighters who hesitated got driven forward with whips and hot iron. The crowd's roar, the knowledge that defeat likely meant death, the opponent across from you trained specifically to kill. Most people would crumble. Jordan's track record suggests he wouldn't. Let's assume Jordan gets the standard gladiatorial training period. He's working with the tetrad system, lifting those 100-kilogram stones, drilling with weighted wooden weapons until the real blade feels light. His hand-eye coordination would accelerate his weapons training faster than typical recruits. Those massive hands that controlled a basketball would grip a gladius with authority. His defensive instincts from basketball, those 9 all-defensive first-team selections, would translate to reading body language and anticipating attacks. The question becomes whether a few years of intensive training can overcome a lifetime deficit in lethal combat experience. Professional gladiators started young, building muscle memory for killing techniques the way Jordan built muscle memory for fadeaway jumpers. They knew exactly how to exploit openings where arteries were vulnerable, how to move in heavy armor without exhausting themselves. Jordan would be fighting people who'd done this dozens of times, who'd survived by being better than opponents and just as well trained. His athleticism keeps him competitive in early fights. Speed creates distance when he needs it. Reach frustrates shorter opponents. Conditioning means he's not gasping for air in the second half of a long bout. But that 10% mortality rate per fight isn't based on who's more athletic. It's based on who makes a mistake first. One missed red, one moment of hesitation, one technique executed slightly wrong, and the fight ends permanently. Jordan's competitive nature might actually be his greatest asset, not because it makes him physically superior, but because it would drive him to obsess over gladiatorial technique the way he obsessed over basketball. He'd drill until movements became instinct. He'd study opponents. he'd find every possible edge. Could he survive his first fight? Possibly, if matched carefully against someone of similar experience. Could he survive 10 fights, reaching that threshold where few gladiators made it through? The odds say no. Even with every physical advantage, even with that legendary mindset, the cumulative risk catches everyone eventually. One fighter survived 150 bouts, but he was the exception that proved how brutal the rule was. Jordan would be extraordinary in the arena, the way he was extraordinary everywhere else. But extraordinary still faced those same compounding odds every time he stepped onto the sand. So what's the actual answer? Jordan walks into that arena with every physical gift you could ask for. The speed, the size, the conditioning, the mental toughness that made him destroy opponents in championship moments. He'd get the best training Rome could offer, and he'd attack it with the same obsessive intensity he brought to basketball. His first few fights, he'd probably make it through on pure athleticism and that refusal to break under pressure. But survival in the gladiator arena wasn't about being the best athlete. It was about lasting long enough for the statistics to catch up with you. That 10% chance per fight doesn't care about your vertical leap or your finals MVP awards. Jordan might extend his odds beyond the average, maybe even significantly, but eventually the math wins. One mistake against an opponent who's been training to kill since they were a child, and it's over. Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever because basketball rewarded exactly what he had. The arena required something different, something that takes decades to develop, and even then, almost nobody survived long term. Could he survive? For a while, probably longer than most. But the arena always got its due.